35 years of operations. What are your first thoughts and impressions?
Wow. First off, just can't believe how fast 35 years have gone. And, looking back from where we started to today and the great team of people that I've been able to work with, which has been one of my big desires in life, and the people I've met, just been incredible. What an incredible ride.
Tell us about your passion for flying. Where did it start from and how did it start?
I sort of grew up in an aviation family, you might say. My first flight in an aircraft was with my dad, who was a naval aviator, but it was in a North American Navion at 2 years old. I started flying gliders at 14, then powered airplanes at 16. I soloed on my 16th birthday, and all I wanted to do was fly fighters. But going up through there, I realized my vision wasn't quite 20/20, so flying military became a major issue. So I never gave up my dream, though, and so I sort of have my own fighter squadron now and get to fly the Mustang almost every day, and haven't been promoted out of the cockpit or aged out of the cockpit so far.
Where did the idea of starting Stallion 51 start from? Did you see a need in the industry for professional P-51 training?
Two things. One is in 1987, the United States Naval Test Pilot School put out a contract for what they call qualitative evaluation work, where you're working with test pilot students in the aircraft. So our first mission, you might say, was actually from the military side in a test pilot school environment. With that, we also realized that the Mustang and the high-performance propeller-driven world of fighters did not have a good accident record. They were losing almost 10% of the airplanes per year. So what we did is we took the mold of learning to fly the Mustang from a test pilot point of view and the lessons learned, and developed a checkout training program to help make a difference in the safety record of these aircraft. We like to bring people in that have a certain skill set, time in aircraft like the T6, which is a great trainer even today for the Mustang, which was the same way during the war years. If they come in with that certain skill set, then the syllabus goes fairly easy. If they don't, then we sort of back them up a little bit, but keeping the airplane going straight down the runway is one of the basics that you sort of have to bring into the field to get it done. So it's a very demanding syllabus. We've never lowered our standards, and we have approximately 215 graduates in 35 years, and we've refused to lower that standard in honor of the people that have gone through the program. So not everybody gets through it, but it's a great standard, and we've had a terrific safety record because of it.
Describe the ideal Mustang student pilot profile.
We'd like to have, somebody have at least minimum 500 hours of aviation experience, so they have some of that sort of to fall back on. The other is the tailwheel skill set. There's nothing magic about it. It's just something that you have to go and you do. So to bring that skill set to the table before you jump into the Mustang is very advantageous. The P-51 Mustang was not designed for going out and having fun on a Sunday afternoon. It was designed as a military fighter. If you look at it, it was designed in roughly 120 days with slide rules and drafting tables. So in a sense, it's not as pilot friendly or forgiving. There's no artificial stall warnings. There's no buzzers, bells, whistles, beepers, pushers, pullers, shakers, all the things that you might find on aircraft today. All we have to work with is the feel of the aircraft with airflow separation. And that makes it a little bit more difficult airplane to adapt to and to fly safely. But with proper training, it's totally doable.
Can you describe how the actual program works from the time a student enrolls to the time the student graduates, the different steps?
Basically coming in, everybody goes to the rear cockpit first, and then on the merits of what the instructor thinks, we move them to the front seat of the aircraft and then going through. So it's a building block program. In other words, building up from basic handling quality stuff to low speed qualities, and then working up and advancing into the higher performance area, even advanced aerobatics. But a lot of the emergency work, simulated engine failures, all things that could make a difference in the real world of operating the P-51 Mustang. And that's the one thing that I'd like to think we brought to the table, is making a major difference in the accident record of these airplanes throughout the world. And, they're icons now. They're, we go out and fly the airplane. We're blessed I get to go out and fly it for fun, where these kids we were talking about did it for a living, did it with their life, and did it for freedom. The necessity of war really drove the whole training program for the P-51 Mustang. There weren't that many pilots flying, so they had to take somebody from no aviation experience through a program, and primarily, in a sense, the steerman into the T6 Texan and then into the Mustang. They lost a lot of airplanes. One, because of the lack of experience of the younger generation coming in without that background to draw on. So it was sort of a attrition rate that was acceptable during those years. But in today's world, totally unacceptable. And therefore, a solid checkout in the aircraft is to everybody's benefit. Keeps the national icons around, it makes aviation safety better, and makes it more fun for everybody.
How do you see the future of the Mustang from an operating perspective? What do you see in the future?
Out of the war years and surplus, there were thousands of spare engines, thousands of propellers, thousands of virtually everything coming into the field, which did two things. One, it made it simpler to maintain the aircraft, and second, made it a whole lot less expensive. Those spares have virtually dried up now, and so the cost of operation is going almost exponential now. I saw a thing from Cavalier the other day that you could buy a P-51 Mustang for like $55,000, all ready to go, and a spare engine, 0 time, was $3,000. And you just go like, wow, that was like 1962.
Yeah, right.
An engine now is in the neighborhood of $300,000. So it's getting more difficult, which means that it gets more expensive, and therefore it's getting fewer people that can financially afford to do this. They're like national treasures. My goal, my dream is to never see them go to a museum and never fly again. These are to fly, they're not stuffed animals. So taking it out, like I'll do a demo today and letting the people see the airplane is just very, very important to me and my mission and my goals in life.
So how do you see the future of the warbird movement and warbirds in general?
Well, I just saw a B-29 just take off, so I think we're pretty good in the warbird area. The passion is still there, the history of these aircraft still alive. I think it's a major importance, just like the United States Air Force Heritage Flight Program. Looking at the old and the new, it holds such an impact to the aviation world that I think it'll go on for quite a while, and I'm just proud to be part of it.
So what's in the future for Lee after over 23,000 flight hours and over 10,000 hours of P-51 time, probably the highest P-51 pilots of all times. So what's in the future for Lee?
Well, I'm still working on building time in the P-51. Ironically enough, Mo, every time I fly the airplane, I seem to learn something new about it. And as you well realize, when you start to teach something, you learn more about it yourself as you begin to teach it. And so I've always kept an open mind about that. 2 years ago, I broke the 10,000 hour mark in the P-51 right here at Sun and Fun. And so I sort of quit counting and just enjoying flying the airplane. Keeping that ability to train the next generation is very important to me. As I slow down, I'm getting more into the checkout, the FA check ride business, and so I can't do them both. So we're making transitions in that area, but nobody enjoys flying the Mustang more than I do, I can tell you that.
Thanks so much, Lee. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Mom.
You're a good pilot, so of course you'd never drink and fly. But when you fly above 8,000 feet, you're at serious risk for something worse: hypoxia. Low oxygen kills your flying skills. It's toxic to fly hypoxic. At Airox, we make oxygen so easy and affordable. Just flip the switch and breathe easy. In any airplane you fly, our made-in-USA oxygen systems and masks will keep you safe and sharp takeoff to touchdown. Airox, #1 in oxygen since 1981.